And now for something completely NIFCO.
It's called the Newfoundland Filmmakers Cooperative, but actually most of the members of NIFCO live in St. John's, and a good proportion of them were born here in the city. And the townies being what they are, it's not surprising that St. John's is not only the backdrop for a lot of the films, it's also the subject. In this program, we're going to look at some of those films filmed in St. John's and even films about St. John's. The one we just looked at was a vignette made by Michael Jones about the St. John's Day celebrations on June 24th every year. Mike used a small handheld camera and he simply moved through the streets of Celebration, shooting short bursts and single frames of film as he went to try to capture some of the feeling of the celebration. That was made in 1982. 10 years before that, Mike Jones made another film about St. John's with a very different feeling. They say that this place has one of the worst climates in Canada, according to an Environment Canada study, next to Rigolet Bay, apparently. On the other hand, on a fresh summer morning, very early, before everyone else is up, this must be one of the nicest places in the world. That's what Mike Jones' film Morning is all about. one thing about walking around St. John's, you're always going up or down. As a matter of fact, if you want to get between one place and another with the minimum of effort, you really have to think in 3 dimensions. Otherwise, you'll find yourself going up and down the same hill 2 or 3 times before you get to where you want to go. I suppose really the history of the city has been a bit like that. It's always been up and down, never a steady process of development or decline. That may be what makes people who live here just a little bit different. Some would even say that we're odd. Certainly, I think people who live here tend to be very conscious of the fact that they are St. John's people. When NIFCO was first formed back in the mid-70s, there was one group of people there who were interested in making films, but had never actually used a camera or a splicer or rewinds, any of those things. So they decided to undertake a group project, and they were fishing around for a topic. They came up with St. John's. The film was called the St. John's Film. It's an early film, quite simple, but it consists of a series of conversations with policemen, shoppers, sailors, even a town planning critic. It has some nice glimpses of some of the people who live here.
You think if they lower inflation, should they lower people's pay too?
No!
Well, if they lower prices, how are people going to be able to get paid in stores?
Okay, leave the prices as they are. Yeah. Higher pay.
You say we should leave the prices as they are?
But get higher pay.
Poorest people, for the most part, in the urban region. The level of services are poor. Structurally, the area has about 20% of the houses in poor conditions, constant, and that's obviously undesirable. The number of people in the area is declining all the time. It's going down slowly, and that's obviously undesirable.
Are there any kinds of changes that you'd like to see take place in St. John's?
But I'd hate to see the downtown area change.
You'd like to keep it the way it is?
Yeah. This is part of St. John's I'm more familiar with.
But on the other hand, it's culturally a very important place. In Newfoundland, it's the site of the perhaps first European settlements in North America. St. John's is an old European settlement, older than Quebec City, older than Montreal. It has importance in those ways.
No. I was born in Poland, but I came to Canada 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay, and you plan to stay in Canada?
Yes.
How does it compare with Poland?
Well, it's big difference, no comparison.
And my father built a schooner,
He built a schooner?
Yes,
Did you fish along with him?
I drove it, yesterday. The first year she ran out in it.
How old were you then when you fished with your father?
Then the mom died in 1949. We brought home all the fish. But what good of it? There's no money in it.
You didn't get any price for it then?
Just pay off your bills and
And that was
just quit.
Yeah.
Bring home with this dog.
Yeah.
Flour and butter, sugar and anything.
Yeah. How do you find it today? Is it
Oh, geez, it's better today.
better today?
I won't go fish today, though.
No?
No.
Why not?
Because the fish are not getting enough.
What I'm working on now is the booster ship. It's called the booster ship. It consists of 12 men.
Yeah.
And they're located down around the busy areas, the residential areas of, and business areas of St. John's, Water Street, Duckle Street, Gower Street, Harbour Road. More or less we're out for vandalism, Try to cut down on the vandalism in St. John's.
Is that your biggest problem, you would say, down here in St. John's?
I would say that is our biggest problem, yes, vandalism.
Yeah.
Much so, all through the city.
Yeah. Why do you suppose there's, do you have any idea why there's so much vandalism here now in the city?
Well, I would say, personally, a lot of vandalism because of the kids, so many kids, young kids, they're very young out on the streets, all hours in the night, and they're just let off,
There are a lot of different ways of looking at St. John's, and if you stand on a rooftop on Gower Street, you get a slightly different perspective on the old place. Justin Hall is a photographer who seems to be able to always find new angles on the old city. He shoots mostly in black and white. He has an eye for the slightly unusual, and he makes St. John's look rather European. In the course of his explorations of the city, Justin discovered that the rooftops of the downtown core had been left behind while the rest of the town marched into the 20th century. So a few years ago, he made a film about St. John's, as seen by the chimney pots and the gables. Here's On Rooftops by Justin Hall. This is one of the favorite landmarks of St. John's, what some people call the National War Memorial. Certainly nowadays it's the site of peace demonstrations as often as it is of remembrances of the wars gone past. It may be appropriate because as war memorials go, it's a fairly unbellicose kind of monument. In 1975, when the Mummers were doing their stage play, The East End Story, Ron Hines wrote a rather poignant ballad about the plight of the old soldiers who are still reliving the battles of the war on the streets of St. John's. And when we were turning the play into a film, we used the War Memorial here as the setting for a sort of visual poem about children and war and the old soldiers.
Buddy, can you spare a dime? I promise I won't ask again. I haven't had a thing all day. Could you help a soldier on the way?
Street drugs? My God, yes. You just get used to them, you know, coming around and pissing on the sidewalks. I believe they were more common then than they are now, though. All around the War Memorial. Fighting Newfoundlanders. That's what they were known as.
And the War Memorial standing there, deserted now, the streets are bare. The soldiers have to move along, and no one ever misses them. They only build memorials for the heroes in the great big war who died and didn't know what for. They died and didn't know what for.
They got all the feathers they give you Newfoundland like that, you know. I threw it all away. Threw it away. Just garbage. Just garbage. But the War Memorial. Now the War Memorial is sacred, sir. Sacred. A lot of men died. I'm not saying they died in vain now. But it was a waste. It was an awful waste. The War Memorial should remind people of that.
Just a drunken dancing infantry in a war for human dignity. The soldiers are still on their feet, unsteadily on Duckworth Street, saying, buddy, can you spare a dime? I promise I won't ask again for just a bottle of shaving lotion, Lord. It's all the front lines can afford.
Another familiar landmark of downtown St. John's is found at the corner of Duckworth and Prescott Streets. Well, motor vehicle traffic in the city seems to get worse every year, and the council, of course, keeps installing new traffic lights to cope with the flow of cars and trucks. But Duckworth and Prescott seems to resist technology. It's still got a real live traffic policeman, and he's become something of an institution. Naturally enough, he found a place in the film You Know You're Downtown.
Every day from 8 to 4, traffic moving to and fro. Duckworth they go, cars they stop, all around the track we come.
One thing you can't help notice as you watch these films about St. John's is just how much the city has changed, even over the last 15 years. In fact, some of the films that we've seen today have already acquired a certain archival value as documentation of that process. Well, naturally, not everyone is equally pleased with the changing face of St. John's. Some would object that much of the new construction is perhaps out of character with this remarkable old city, and others mourn the destruction of buildings that were far from the end of their useful life. Well, the last film on today's program is a very short vignette that documents the transition from the old Newfoundland Hotel to the new Hotel Newfoundland. In one level, it's a very simple cinematic trick that compresses the lapse of time. But I wonder if perhaps the filmmakers didn't have something else in mind, perhaps a metaphor for the greater changes taking place in St. John's. You be the judge. Here's the hotel film.